Hey everyone, welcome back to the Mayz Pod. I'm your host, Maisie Greenman, 20-year-old 911 dispatcher, cosmetologist, and criminal justice grad. I've accomplished a lot over these past couple of years, and I'm here to share what I've picked up along the way to help you chase your goals and live out your dreams as well. So I'm just going to go ahead and jump into segments really quick. So this week I am grateful for just opportunity in general and all the opportunities that I've had come to me lately. I definitely feel like I've manifested a lot of it and I've worked really hard to be getting these opportunities, but I feel like everything has just been coming to me at the perfect time. I've been meeting the right people and just everything is flowing how it's supposed to, and I'm really grateful for that. And I honestly am just looking forward to life in general. Um, as you're listening to this, I just got back from my trip. If you follow me on my social medias, you probably saw that I got married. So I'm just looking forward to life and everything that comes with that. And yeah, it's gonna be a great time. And then if I could talk to younger me, I would tell her to just fail. Just go ahead and do it. I mean, it sounds scary, but don't stop yourself from doing something just because you're afraid to fail. That's the only way you're going to learn. And anyone who's been successful has learned from their failures and worked their way up. They didn't let it phase them, so don't let it phase you either. All right, well, it's also the Mayz Pod's first birthday. So happy birthday to the Mayz Pod. I honestly can't believe it's been a whole year since we rebranded and revamped everything. I also can't believe how far we've come. Honestly, the Mayz Pod wouldn't be where it is right now without any of you guys. So thank you so much for your continued support. And we do have one big change coming to the Mayz Pod, and that's video podcasting. If you're not already watching, that's probably news to you. I just barely started fresh with a YouTube channel and am going to test and see how it goes. I want to make this show a lot more accessible to as many people as possible and more engaging as well. I just feel like I have a lot of good advice that can help pretty much anyone who needs it, and I want to be able to make that more accessible to everyone. And I also feel like this will provide you guys with a little bit more value. And it's definitely going to be a learning curve for me. I've never really done anything like this at all. And I honestly don't even think I've ever recorded a YouTube video, like ever. And I mean, I just started recording reels and stuff to stay up to date with my social medias, but I'm trying to think, I don't think I've ever recorded like a good YouTube video. Or, I mean, even when TikTok and stuff first came out, I never really made videos on there. I barely just recently started doing this, so it's going to be a huge learning curve. And I mean, if you're watching on YouTube right now, you can see my setup. It'll probably change, and my lighting is not very good right now. I went and got my hair curled and everything and came back and it was dark outside. So we're not rolling with any natural lighting, but it's okay. We're gonna work through it. We'll see if my setup changes or not. We'll see. But anyways, on that note, it would mean a lot if you could go subscribe to the Mayz Pod on YouTube. I will also link it in the show notes. And this podcast will be uploaded and it will be super helpful to me if you go watch it and leaves a thumbs up. And if this is something that you want to see more of, especially go and do that. I'm going to test it out for a couple of months. And so if this is something that you want me to keep doing, be sure to be liking my videos, subscribing, commenting, all of the things. It will, one, boost the algorithm, but also show me that you want me to still create these. If I'm not getting any engagement or anything, I'm not going to keep recording these. And so even if it's just one person, I'll keep making the video pod. But if there's nobody on there, then I am not going to keep recording it. So, like I said, if that's something that you want, go ahead and engage with the videos. And this also makes this a little bit easier to leave comments or questions, anything that you may have, instead of having to email them or reach out on social media. So, yeah, definitely go ahead and use that. It'll make it a little bit easier for everyone. And then another thing that's changing is no breaks in between episodes unless I have something big coming up. I won't do breaks in between each miniseries like I was doing. I was kind of testing that out, and I just heard that a lot of you prefer to have new content every single week. So, like I said, unless something big comes up and I can't get an episode out for some reason, I will be dropping episodes every single week and going straight into a new mini series. But I also really like this format of being able to separate my topics and diving deeper, with 3 to 4 episodes each month or more than that. Just the mini series in general, I'm really enjoying. So if that's something that you've been enjoying as well, go ahead and drop a 5-star review or a comment on YouTube, or use the Q&A feature on Spotify, wherever you're listening to, so that I can see the positive feedback. This also boosts the show's engagement so that we can reach even more people. And yeah, it just helps me out all the way around. So go ahead and do that. And yeah, we have a ton more big changes and upgrades coming to the Mayz Pod in the future, so just stay tuned for those. I'm not sure exactly when they'll be in place, but if you want to be the first person to get any updates, go ahead and follow me on social media. It's Mayzy.g09 on Instagram and Mayzy Greenman on Facebook. I also have the Mayz Pod Instagram page, but I don't post on it as much as I used to. I mainly just use my personal. But yeah, go ahead and follow those, stay up to date, and yeah. Okay, so moving on, as you know, this month is February, and because it is our birthday, and let me just say really quick, I am super excited to be here a whole year later. That's crazy to me, and I really want this pod to grow for years and years to come. Honestly, it's crazy to think about, but what if the Mayz Pod turned 5 or 10 years old? I mean, if you're down, then I'm down. Just kidding. But if you're here in 10 years, then I'll be here too. But in order for this to happen, it has to grow. And this year, as you know already, I am focusing on healing and growing in all things personally, professionally, and creatively. So I just felt it was pretty on brand to create a mini series on growth this month. So today we're specifically going to talk about what growth means to you and redefining it. So, first things first, everyone's definition and vision of growth is completely different, and that's perfectly okay. This is just because we all have different goals and points that we are trying to reach for ourselves, and it's important that you define or redefine growth for yourself and your goals. And before you do this, you should think about your why. Now, we've talked about your why before. Think about why you're setting these goals. And if you grew past the point that you're at right now and achieved your goals, what would that mean to you? Now, this can be personally, numerically, monetarily, whatever type of growth that you need in order to accomplish your goals and live your dream life, whatever it is. Go with that. Now, I want you to put some really, really put some thought into this and visualize what types of opportunities would open up for you if you were to grow and complete these goals. And if it helps, go ahead and write this down so that you can come back to it if you ever get discouraged or upset in the future and need a little reminder about why you're doing whatever it is that you're doing. And we've also talked about how you may just change your mind at different times of your life about certain things, and growth is one of those things too. So at one point, you may view growth only as the numbers and metrics that you are hitting or accomplishments. And I mean, I felt that way before too. In certain situations, I sometimes still feel like that's the only way that I can grow. But now I really try to view growth as something much more than that as often as I can. It's a mental game. Sometimes it doesn't play out that way, so it's not always going to be perfect. But now I view growth as the wisdom that I take from each experience. I feel like that as long as I'm trying to find the value in any experience, that I will always find it. Even if whatever experience it is did not go as I expected it to. Sometimes it's really just trial and error. Wow, I am struggling. Um, but sometimes you may feel like you failed. And there are times that I've told myself that I failed or that I'm a failure. And I mean, I don't think that way at all anymore. Thank God. But that is something that I used to think. And you may be in that place right now, and that's okay. Anyways, the point that I'm trying to hit right now is that you can't fail unless you quit. And there's always going to be something that you can take away from and learn in any experience. And I mean, now I'm kind of contradicting myself from my dear younger me, where I said, don't be afraid to fail. And I mean, I should probably rephrase that to don't be afraid to try. Just try, and if you make a mistake, pick yourself up back up again. And you don't really truly fail unless you quit. So hopefully that makes a little bit more sense about what I was trying to say there. Um, but I feel like as long as I focus on what I gained from any experience, even if it is one single fact or even just a little breadcrumb of knowledge or a brief interaction that I may have had, whatever it is that I'm growing as a person and becoming a better person because of that experience or that fact or that interaction. And it doesn't even have to be positive. I can grow from a negative experience as well. And I think that truly shows my new definition of growth and the person that I've become and the person that I want to become as well. But like I said before, I did not feel like that for a very long time. I used to let anger and negative feelings blind me from opportunity. And sometimes this still happens because, like I said, perfect does not exist. Last time I checked, it is not a thing. But my feelings and thoughts toward growth have changed, and they probably will just continue to change and get better with the more things that I experience and the more seasons that I go through in my life. And yours probably will too. And like I just said a couple of minutes ago, at one point my definition of growth was based completely off external achievements and external milestones. And if you're feeling that way right now, I'm here to open up your mind a little bit more. And let me be real clear real quick. I don't want you to neglect any of those achievements or downplay them at all because they're still important. In fact, I want you to be celebrating those because they're still wins. But I just want you to expand that definition a little bit more. I want you to also focus on internal growth. And again, this is going to look different for each and every one of you, just like everything that I talk about here. There's not a one size fits all playbook for growth. And growth may look like emotional maturity, or self awareness, or healing from a traumatic experience. It may even be a combination of all of these things. It may be even something a little bit different than that, and that's okay. I want you to think about a personality trait that you would like to have or you would like to improve and take actions and make decisions based on whatever that is. You've got to fake it until you make it with things like this. And eventually, these behaviors, these choices, these decisions will be an unconscious characteristic that you have, and you will be a much better person because of it. And okay, now I've said it a million times already. Your growth is going to look different than everybody else's. So don't get stuck comparing where you're at to someone where you're at right now to where someone else is at. This is only going to create negative feelings that you do not need in your life. And we've talked about this before. You should be proud of the person that you're becoming and how you're growing as a person. You do not need to take a step back by comparing your growth to someone else's. It will only hurt you, and you're not going to feel accomplished at all. And you're not going to feel as accomplished as you were before as well. So just make sure that you're not comparing yourselves. But in the case that you do end up comparing yourself, whether it's on purpose or unintentionally, we've got to get you back on track because I mean, I do it too. Sometimes I get sidetracked on Instagram and I see someone killing their goals and think, wow, like they're just doing amazing, and compare it to my own. Um, if this happens, I just want you to think about where you were yesterday and the day before. Whenever this happens to me, I think about where I was at and where I am now. And that usually sets my mindset back where it's supposed to be. It's like, oh wait, I'm making as much progress as they are. Things like that. And in just this short amount of time, these 2 days, 2 weeks, 2 months, whatever it is, you've made progress. You're a better person. And now look at where you were, whatever timeline you chose, just barely. Look at where you were even before then. And you have something now that you didn't have then. Remember that. You are doing better than you were yesterday. You have more than you did yesterday. Even if today was a really bad day compared to yesterday, you're still a better person. You're still experiencing more things as long as you take those experiences and choose to grow from them and not let them take over. And I really just want you to remember that just because someone else is achieving something at a different pace than you are doesn't mean that you should beat yourself up about it. And I also want you to replace any negative thoughts that come up during this process with something positive. Yeah, you may not feel like you made as much progress as someone else, but you made progress and that's what matters. Yeah, you may have not finished your to do list, but you got farther than you did yesterday. Be optimistic because you're on the right track. And when you're replacing those negative thoughts with positive thoughts, you're training your subconscious. Most of the time now, whenever I have some type of negative thought, when I go on that scrolling binge and I find someone else, whenever I have those negative thoughts pop up, the little voice in the back of my head is they're saying like, "No, you're doing great." Or just give feeding me those positive things so I remember, "Oh yeah, I'm doing fine too." So make sure that you're doing that cuz even me, even I still get those thoughts, but I am trying to reduce that and I'm trying to be a better person and grow from all of these different experiences. All right, and I'm not going to go super in depth in this next part because I've talked about it in a ton of previous episodes. But if you're not already, go ahead and start tracking your progress, whether you're doing it through an app or through progress photos or in a journal, just keep track. You want to be able to look back in a month, 2 months, 2 years from now and see how far that you've come. You're making progress and changes a lot faster than you may realize, and without tracking it, you're never going to notice. And I keep bumping that, sorry. If you're not watching the video pod, I move my microphone stand, so when I talk with my hands, I keep hitting it. Um, but anyways, um, you may even want to use a combination of these things. I use a habit tracking app and I also have journals. I have a bunch of different journals. I use progress photos. I use honestly a mix of all three depending on what progress I'm tracking. So feel free to do this however you'd like. I like to keep super good records and that's why I have all of these different methods, but just find what works for you and your routine. And yeah, you're like I said, you're just making progress a lot faster than you notice. So without tracking those changes, you're not going to notice. And okay, that's all I'm going to say about that. So go listen to the Letting Go mini series from November and December if you want to hear more about it. And you've probably heard this quote many times by Oprah Winfrey, which says, "We can't become what we need to be by remaining what we are." You will never become the person that you strive to be without growth. It may take time, but anything that's worth it does. And before clicking off of this episode, I have linked a couple of journal prompts, and I will also be posting those on my socials when this episode comes out in case you'd like to use them. Once they expire off my story, I'll just have them. I have the little bubble on Instagram, the story highlight thing, and I'll put it in the one that says pod. So if you're listening to this later on, go ahead and check that out if you want to see those journal prompts. But yeah, as always, make sure to go follow me at mayz.g09 on Instagram and Mayz Greenman on Facebook, where, like I said earlier, I have some big announcements coming soon. Also, like and subscribe on YouTube if you want me to keep producing the video pod. And if you have any suggestions, comments, concerns, or really anything, either email me at mayzpod@gmail.com, use the Q&A section on Spotify, comment on YouTube, and if you're feeling extra nice, it would help me out if you left a 5-star review. Remember, success doesn't come without hard work. I hope you all have the most productive week. You're doing great, and I wish you the best. See you next episode.